The other day I was thinking about ways to promote Linux into the mainstream environment. And then it hit me. Why not put Linux on every system? There is a way to do it. Unfortunately, at this point, that just leaves us with one distribution, which is Ubuntu. Nonetheless, I present to you what should be done on every Windows desktop in the store. Hang on a moment, I need to see if this is recording. Sure enough it is, okay. Sorry about that. Number one is download and install Wubi. Wubi is an application that allows Linux to run on your PC without it partitioning the hard drive. It will actually install the operating system, but it will do it in such a way that it is similar to a virtual machine, but it's not running off an emulator. It's actually installing the system onto the computer itself as opposed to onto a virtual system. It's hard to explain. Suffice it to say that to Windows, Ubuntu is going to look like an application as opposed to an operating system. So anyway, you install Wubi, and then you install Ubuntu. Now right here is a screenshot of the Wubi installer. Take a look at the highlighted areas. Number one is select a password. Number two is click install. And three, there is no three. But I'm going to say that there is, and that is right here. Accessibility. And this is because if you are a specialty store or you are a rehabilitation agency, for example, let's say you're servicing people who have visual challenges, basically can't see very well. Well, that's where this button would come in right here, accessibility. You would set it up so that you would have the screen reader running the very second you initiate Ubuntu. There is one thing to note here, and that is, actually, I'll get to it at the end, because we'll be talking about multiple environments here. Once you have Wubi installed, one thing to note is that the install process will take some time, because what it does is it will start the installer and then it will go online and then download the image of the operating system. That's the thing that could take a while, depending on the speed of your connection, as well as the speed of the server and various other factors. When that's done, you will reboot your computer, and you will be presented with a screen like this. This is the Windows Boot Manager. Excuse me. It simply says to choose an operating system to start, or press Tab to select a tool. And you've got, in this example, Microsoft Windows Vista or Ubuntu. And you can also specify an advanced option. And the tools here would be Windows Memory Diagnostic. Ubuntu has no tools that would apply to this boot manager. I will say here that the Wubi and the boot manager, it'll work fine for Windows XP. It'll work fine for Windows Vista. Windows 7 will work, but you'll need to go into Properties, and under the Compatibility tab, you'll need to run compatibility for Windows Vista. That will be in a drop-down menu, so once you select that, you'll be good to go. Because if you don't, the install will work, but then you won't be able to see the Ubuntu install when you get to the boot manager. You'll only have Windows as an option. And like I said, from this menu, you want to select Ubuntu, and you want to boot into Ubuntu. This is your default Ubuntu desktop. We're not done yet, though. The next thing you should do is open a terminal and type in the following command: sudo, sudo, apt, apt, dash or hyphen, get, get, install, kde. And when you need, and it'll ask you for your password, you'll need to provide that. This is just an example of what goes on when you use the command. Now, there's another terminal command you can use for application installation, which is aptitude, but the default is apt-get. But either way, this is exactly what's going to happen. It'll read the package lists, dependency trees, and so forth. It's basically, this is all the stuff that goes on in the background while it installs KDE. From there, you want to log out of Ubuntu back to the login screen. This is the login screen. On the screen, you want to go to Options, which is down here in the lower left. You want to say Select Session, and you want to select KDE. Now, it might be a little bit difficult to see depending on your system. It is a radio button, but like I said, it may be a little bit hard to see. For me, it was just a little dot in the middle. So, you know. But yeah, it's a radio button. You want to select KDE. You can select this just for one session or permanently. I would say make it the default so that it will boot into KDE all the time. And there's a very specific reason for this. KDE's desktop environment, coupled with Ubuntu's user-friendliness and documentation, makes it perfect for the beginning Linux user. The reason to have the default GNOME desktop is to showcase two of Linux's strengths, which are freedom of choice, because you can choose between what desktop environment you want. You're not stuck with one like you are in Windows. And the freedom of cost to the consumer, just, demonstrate that you have all this for free. And there's a third one that's listed here. Remember how we talked about accessibility at the beginning? You want to have Ubuntu's GNOME desktop available because that's the only one with a screen reader. The magnifier is available in both versions. However, I would recommend you check your graphics card first, otherwise it may behave a little erratically. But the screen reader is only available in GNOME. And the reason why I suggest KDE is because, take a look. Take a look. I'll zoom out here. Looks like Windows, doesn't it? You have your Start menu here, which is your K menu. You have your taskbar. You have your task tray. You even have multiple desktops. So this looks a lot like Windows, and I think because of this factor, it would make the transition to Linux a lot easier. But this, I think, is a good way to promote Linux by actually having Wubi on all the PCs and having the sales rep trained in at least the basics of the GUI interface of Linux as a way to promote Linux and a way to promote open source software. There's a rumor going around that Microsoft will be switching to subscription-based services. If that's the case, then Linux really will pick up. Even if Microsoft doesn't, though, I think Linux will pick up because nowadays people are looking for cheap alternatives. Linux is completely free. And, I would just say, go for it. This is another way we can promote Linux, and I definitely encourage this. Comments and questions are welcome. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.